Hi, I'm Mr. Franklin, and in this video, we're going to cover scientific and technical drawing for conceptual physics. This can be useful for other beginning science classes at the high school level. Our objective for today is to learn how to draw specifically in physics. We're going to learn very briefly why technical drawings are important, how scientific drawings are different from art, and provide you with a library of drawings you can use in this class specifically. What are scientific drawings? They are primarily a way of recording an observation. Hey, that's what we're about in science. So we're going to depict accurate observations and measurements. We're going to use it to explain something to someone else. We're going to use it to find problems in our understanding and or solve those problems. And it also comes with a standard set of symbols often used in that specific scientific field. So for example, here are some set symbols used in electrical engineering across the board. We will learn a couple of these. Here is a pattern diagram of the PlayStation controller with all its inner workings. It's very detailed. Here is our lab setup from the Pendulum Lab, especially in the days when we do this in person. And then here is a word problem that's been converted into a drawing. And while it's complex, if you spend some time with it, you could probably figure out kind of what's going on. Scientific drawings are not art, but they can be. And that's probably where it actually kind of started. Like classical painters, like Rembrandt, this is Rembrandt, a painting of himself, they tried to capture reality as close as they could. And some of their portraits they did with paint almost look like photographs. It's amazing. Da Vinci, known for all kinds of different art, is also very well known for his technical drawings. Our number one goal, though, is, and it's difficult when we mention the word drawing to students, we are not pursuing artistic renderings. All we are really trying to do is communicate detailed information about an observation, lab setup, or word problem. And the adage goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes it's easier just to explain it by drawing a picture. Now, the problem that we come up to is as soon as someone mentions the word drawing, we start thinking of art and we start mixing the two up. So while this drawing right here, we would consider the leaf drawing on the right to be more correct in this class because it's going to depict an accurate representation of the leaf, whereas the one on the left is more of an artistic rendering and could be subject to some biases. So we're going to look for something much simpler, more exact, and precise. Now, the dream would be to actually match the two, kind of like Da Vinci's drawing up here. It's very clear where the exact pieces are and how it fits together, but there's also some shading and some other artistic tools being used in the drawing. Regardless, drawing for art or science requires practice. How to draw. Your materials that you should use for this class when you draw is you should use a composition book. Your composition book should be your journal for the class. It should be a lab journal. It should contain your journal for everything that we do in this class, including all your drawings. If for some reason you're having an issue with your composition book, for whatever reason, then please do it on paper. Use a pencil. A pencil can be erased. It's much easier to erase than to start over on a drawing. I am notorious for having to start over because I don't use pencils sometimes. So please use a pencil. A ruler or graph paper can also be very helpful. I know a couple of you are using it already. Depending on when you're accessing this video in whatever course you're using this video, you may be required to use graph paper. Please ask your teacher if that applies to you. Do not do these on your computer. We're only going to do these on paper. We are beginners at this. It is much easier to work quickly, make mistakes, redraw it, all those kinds of things if you're drawing on paper. Digital versions, and I make digital versions all the time. Digital versions, I don't care how good you are, take 2 to 5 times longer to create. They just do. They can also be very difficult to edit and to work with as a live document. Many times we're going to be using our diagrams while we're working a lab or something like that, or we're solving a problem, and a digital version is very difficult to work with. And it's 10 times worse if you're working from a Chromebook. So do these on paper. If you have a technical issue with doing these on paper, taking a picture, and then turning it into your teacher, then please talk to your teacher and get help and figure out how you are going to make that work, because paper is your only option. How to draw a scientific drawing and procedure. This is like a 30,000-foot view of it. Determine what you're going to draw. Select an appropriate amount of paper. Draw the object. Draw all the motions, actions, science principles at work. Label everything that you need to, and then test your drawing. The most important step is, does your drawing tell the story? Does it communicate what you want it to communicate? Okay, so that was a brief overview. So just a couple of minor points to emphasize here is, just remember that when you're determining what you're drawing, if it's an observation or a lab setup, it may need more room because you're actually going to need a lot more labeling. If it's a word problem, if it's complex, it might need more room. If it's something simple, you might need a little bit of space. So what are you drawing? What's the purpose of your drawing will affect the space and where you're positioning things on the paper, all that kind of stuff. Select an appropriate amount of space on your paper. Most people choose too little space. Are you drawing something up and down? Are we dropping something? Then you should give yourself more room to work up and down on the page. If we've got a car going from left to right, you might need more room left to right on your page. So keep an idea of what you're drawing and then how much space you need. It's always better to plan too much space and then find out that you don't need all of that space. I would rather you take a whole page for a drawing or a half a page for a drawing and only need about a fourth of a page when you get done, especially as a beginner. As we get more into this, you'll start to figure out, oh, I only need a third of the page. Or, ooh, that's a hard one. I need a whole page. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Okay? So those are the two main things to think about. Otherwise, determine what you're drawing, select the amount of space you need, draw the object, draw any physics, label everything. When in doubt, label, and then does it tell the story? So from here on out, I'm basically going to show you how I would draw certain things. So first thing, drawing the object, simple objects. So here is an MC-130. Here is a drawing of an MC-130. This is the airplane I flew, by the way. Here is Jesse Owens running at the Olympics. Here is a stick figure version of Jesse Owens running. And I'm going to represent it as a single dot. So for most of this class, we're going to draw simple objects. A dot. A dot is a dot. A dot is a car. A dot is a person running. A dot is an airplane. Why? We only care about the whole object. I only care that Jesse Owens is running from the starting line to the finish line. So I don't need to know about what his arms or his legs or any of that other stuff is doing. That's too much information. So he becomes a dot. So I can represent what I'm interested in. Now the dot does represent the center of the object. So if forces start applying outside of the center of the object, then we might need to go back to a more complex drawing. But for this class, a dot is a dot. A dot is nearly everything. However, in some of our observational drawings and our lab drawings, we are going to want to draw the individual pieces. The secret to this is label them. This is important when we do care about the pieces. We do care about what are Jesse Owens's arms doing. So we would have to draw those and look at the physics of that. So when we don't care about the individual pieces of an object and just what's happening in general, we'll draw it as a dot. Otherwise, we get a more complex drawing. When we're drawing quantities, you should always draw, label, make sure with a known quantity that you use the variable and it equals a number with units. And if it's an unknown quantity, variable equals question mark. What do I mean? Well, let's draw, and that's what we're going to do from here on out, is I'm just going to draw different quantities for you very briefly and very quickly. So this is distance. Distance equals 5 meters. What does this mean? I started here at the starting line. That's 0 meters. And I ended here at the ending line. So it's a bar with a straight line capped by another bar. And that is the distance that I ran. If I don't know what the distance is, I can label it as a question mark. But the drawing itself is the same for all of these distances. It's a bar with a line with another bar. And this is the beginning, and that's the end. Next is time. How do we draw time? Same way. time equals 3 seconds. I'm going to use a cursive S so it doesn't look like a 5. Here is the beginning of the time, here is the end of the time, and that happens right in here. So that was 3 seconds. Time equals 3 seconds, or time equals question mark. Drawing any vectors. When we're drawing vectors, basically we're going to draw the dot and we're going to draw an arrow in the direction the vector is happening. We're not going to get too much into this. In more accurate physics drawings and more advanced physics drawings, the size of the arrow is as important as the direction. So just get it close. How are we going to deal with this? Primarily by labeling it. We're going to label it with the force equals 5 newtons. And so I know that that's what that arrow is, whereas this force is 12 newtons. So the arrows represent that this is bigger than this one, but we're not going to get too accurate with our arrow sizes, even though it can be important and helpful to draw them as close to accurate as possible. We're actually going to use mostly our labeling to help us figure out what the size of the arrows are at our level of physics. But vectors, it's a dot with an arrow in the direction of the vector. Drawing velocity. So velocity is a vector. So there's the object, and there's Jesse Owens, he's running, and velocity equals 5 meters per second. So just be careful, make sure that you're labeling everything appropriate. Be careful also, if you have something that is going down, even if it's not mentioned as a negative in the word problem, if it's going in a negative direction, label it and mark it appropriately. Okay, so direction, if it's in a negative direction, make sure you make it a negative as appropriate. Acceleration. Okay, acceleration is a vector, so we draw the dot, the direction, and label it. Acceleration equals 3 meters per second squared, and we've got an acceleration. I've got a special acceleration known as acceleration due to gravity, lowercase g equals negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Sometimes we'll get a drawing where we'll see a change in speed, and that automatically tells me there must be an acceleration here. Which way is the change? The change is actually a negative acceleration because it's slowing down, but I do not know what's happening, so I could label it that way as well. But I have an acceleration going that way. Okay, very important. So we got arrows, 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 but each label means something different is going on with each label. Okay, so labels are really, really important. We don't have a lot of time to go into this, but when we draw forces, there's a technical word for these. It's called a free body diagram. And later on, you'll get to watch something more specific about what these are. But in general, the object is a dot, and the forces are drawn pointing away from the dot in the direction that they act, and then it's labeled. So that's the force of a push. If I'm pushing on a box, if I'm over here on this side of the box and I'm pushing, I'm actually pushing on this side of the box. So, but I'm not going to draw the force on that side of the diagram, okay? So I'm not going to draw the force on that side of the diagram. I'm going to draw it from the dot in the direction it points. Why? Because if I have other forces on there, now I can start to see what happens with those, because when I add up all of those forces, I'm going to get the net force. Now, if we have a bunch of forces, you may actually have to just make a bigger dot, because you might have a force going here and a force going here and a force is going here. Okay. And the last thing I almost forgot is forces in the up and down direction can only be added to forces in the up and down direction. Forces in the left and right direction can only be added to forces in the left and right direction. Okay, that's a crash course on free body diagrams. You can watch this other video if you want more information. I will also be producing a shorter video that also captures the essentials of free body diagram that you can watch separately. Drawing work. So we have just learned a new quantity for drawing work. The bottom line is we're going to keep it simple. And first thing, to draw work, work is force over a distance. So you got to have a distance and you got to have a force for there to even be work. So you know you have to have those two pieces. Okay. Now, where do I put work in my drawing? Work can be like distance, where it goes between the bars, because the work happens over that distance. So we could put work in between the bars, or I could put work at the end where the work is completed or finished at the end of its work. Okay. So if the force is in the upward direction, the work at the top here is how much work was put into the system. And then if I drop the object and the force of gravity pulls it down, then we could say that the work was 60 joules. I tend to like that because it helps us with kinetic energy and potential energy and solving other problems. But this version of work is appropriate as well. Just know that the force and the distance have to be parallel in their drawing. If your force or your distance are not parallel, then you got a problem. Work is not being done quite the way you think it is. And so then we got to talk about it. So you can refer to the work video notes to get a better understanding of what I mean by that. But that is how you draw work. Last thing is, especially with our word problems, sometimes we have more than one quantity and we've got to sort it all out and figure out what's going on. And the best thing to do is number it or label it. Velocity 0, or V naught, as we sometimes say, time equals 0. That's where it comes from. It doesn't actually have to be time equals 0 for it to be V naught. It just means the first velocity. And then the second velocity would actually be V1, then V2, V3, V4. Bottom line is we're labeling. We could use letters, VA, VB. When we use forces, we've already done this: force of gravity, force of friction, normal force. And if all else fails and you don't know what to do, if you're not sure and you got more than one, then just write the words out. So if it's the force of air resistance, then write it out. Okay. Yeah, it takes up more space, but much, much better to be clear what it is and avoid confusion and miss a problem or miscommunicate to somebody else by writing out a word. Okay. So if you've got multiples, label it, give it the little subscript extra label. Okay. Just be careful. F sub G is not F times, it's not F times G, because that's something different. Okay. This is the force of gravity. When in doubt, spell it out and you will be good to go. All right. That concludes this video on drawing for science, specifically for physics. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.